talk about the training yourself to be uncomfortable or to become more comfortable with discomfort. Does anything come to mind just in terms of managing your psychology?
For my own psychology, the way that I try to manage this stuff is I wake up in the morning and you get like whatever emails you have of like stuff that's going on in the world, right? So it's world events, it's team events, whatever trends we're seeing across our products. And often in there's a fair amount of bad news and like new things that I need to absorb. One of the things I've found that just for kind of managing myself is that if I try to just go straight into the day, it's like almost every morning when I wake up and like read through my emails and get the news, it's almost like getting punched with sort of like a ton of new context. And it's like, okay, I need to like internalize this. So I found that basically doing something physical and something that's like meditative to take my mind off of it for like an hour so then I can reset and go do work is really important. So that's why, things like foiling or surfing have been really important to me because, when you're out there in the water, it's like pretty hard to focus on anything else, right? It's like when you're on the board, you're focused on making sure you stay on the board and don't mess something up, especially if you're kind of towing or something like that, there's not a whole lot of downtime.
Yeah.
I've found that for my own performance is significantly better when I have something like that that's like meditative and physical and allows me to kind of output some energy and then I can come back in. And it's almost like I'll have subconsciously settled all of the things that have sort of all the news that have happened in the world. Now it's like, okay, let's go deal with it.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, if there's something that's really an emergency, I'm not going to go do a sport or something. I'll go deal with it. And obviously part of life is you don't always get to control your schedule and that's kind of how that goes. But when I compare kind of how I do on the days when I kind of get to have some time to soak that in or to kind of have an outlet versus just like jumping right in, I find I'm often like stewing in bad news or something. And then I'm not as productive. So I think that's sort of my own personal way that I try to manage situations like this. But obviously, a key part of this is like having an awesome team, and it's not primarily about me at this point. It's a big company, and we have awesome people who are running all these different groups. So I get that what I'm saying, kind of how I've worked out the system for myself, isn't necessarily something that would work for a lot of other people.
When I was growing up, one of the big things that I think that the internet enables is for people to connect with groups of people who share their real values and interests. And it wasn't always like this, right? Before the internet, you were really tied to your physical location. And I just think about how when I was growing up, I grew up in a town of about 10,000 people. Mm-hmm. And, there were only, so many different clubs or activities that you could do. So I grew up, like a lot of the other kids, playing Little League baseball. And I kind of think about this in retrospect. It's like, I'm not really into baseball. I'm not really an athlete. So why did I play Little League when, my real passion was programming computers? And, the reality was that growing up, there was no one else really in my town who was into programming computers. So I didn't have a peer group or a club that I could do that. It wasn't until I went to boarding school and then later college where I actually was able to meet people who were into the same things as I am. Mm-hmm. And now I think with the internet, that's starting to change, right? And now you have the ability to not just be tethered to your physical location, but to find people who have more niche interests and different kind of subcultures and communities on the internet, which I think is a really powerful thing.
So there's this inherent conflict in the system, though, which is, are we trying to optimize newsfeed to give each person, all of you guys, the best experience when you're reading? Or are we trying to help businesses just reach as many people as possible? And in every decision that we make, we optimize for the first, for making it so that for the people who we serve, who use Facebook and who are reading newsfeed, get the very best experience that they can. And that means that if a business is sharing content that's going to be useful for them, then we'll show that. But that means that if the business is sharing content that isn't going to be useful for them, we may not show that because it's probably more important that they learn about their friend who had a baby and their baby is healthy. So that's an important guiding principle for how we think about this stuff. And as the products continue to develop, there's just going to be more people sharing more things, and we're going to continue to try to do our best at showing the best things that we can, understanding that there's no way that a person will ever take the time to go through every one of the 1,500 things that are shared with them every single day. But that's kind of how I think about organic reach. And there are a lot of pages that are doing quite successfully, and their organic reach is growing quite a bit because they're delivering content to people that they really want. So if you're a business owner and you're thinking about how to use your free page on Facebook, I would just focus on trying to publish really good content that's going to be compelling to your customers and the people who are following.
It's really good to be idealistic, but be prepared to be misunderstood. Anyone working on a big vision is going to get called crazy, even if you end up right. Anyone taking on a complex problem is going to get blamed for not fully understanding it, even though it's impossible to know everything up front. Anyone taking initiative will always get criticized for moving too fast, because there's always someone who wants to slow you down. Ideas don't come out fully formed. They only become clear as you work on them. You just have to get started. If I had to know everything about connecting people before I got started, I never would have built Facebook. Movies and pop culture just get this all wrong. The idea of a single eureka moment is a dangerous lie. It makes us feel inadequate because we feel like we haven't had ours yet. And it prevents people with seeds of good ideas from ever getting started in the first place.